The story begins with Takahashi, an unlucky company employee. He sits at his desk, preparing a report, mentally reminding himself that it's almost 6 in the evening. He thinks to himself that this time he will definitely leave work on time. But just as he finishes that thought, his boss storms over, anger practically radiating from him. The boss scolds Takahashi and blames him for the failure of his plan, snapping that it's Takahashi's fault the plan wasn't accepted. Without waiting for a response, the boss demands to know why Takahashi wrote such a stupid report. Takahashi apologizes immediately, but his boss isn't done. He throws more files onto Takahashi's desk and, with a dismissive tone, orders him to take care of those as well. Then the boss walks over to another employee, Satu, and comments on her makeup. He tells her it looks better than usual and asks if she's going to a mixer today. Satu, slightly flustered, laughs and tells the boss to stop teasing her. Takahashi witnesses all of this and quietly fumes. He thinks about how, thanks to his terrible boss, he's certain to be stuck working overtime for another 20 days. He reflects bitterly that if the report had been well received, his boss would have taken all the glory for himself. Frustration bubbles up inside him as he thinks that it pisses him off. Yet despite everything, Takahashi resolves not to quit his job. He grits his teeth and decides he'll do the work, even if he doesn't want to. Nearby, another employee whispers excitedly to a colleague that he's leaving on time today. The colleague, curious, whispers back, asking if he has a date or something. The first employee, clearly pleased with himself, brags that he met his girlfriend on a dating app and adds that she's super cute. Takahashi overhears this conversation and silently curses. He thinks that the boss should have dumped all this extra work on those guys instead of him. One of the employees approaches Takahashi and suggests he try out a dating app, casually noting that Takahashi is still single, right? Takahashi replies that he's fine and not interested. The colleague insists, telling him to just register and give it a shot. Annoyed, Takahashi snaps at him to stop. But his coworkers, undeterred, sign him up for a dating app anyway, using completely false information for his profile. Frustrated, Takahashi mutters to himself that his stupid coworkers signed him up. If they were so worried about his loneliness, he thinks angrily, they should have taken some of his workload instead. Now logged into the app, Takahashi scrolls through profiles with a mix of skepticism and annoyance. He sees one profile of a girl who looks cute but has high expectations for a partner's yearly salary. Another profile shows a woman close to his age, but she's only interested in handsome guys. Shocked, he notices college students on the app and wonders why anyone would ever use such a thing. Much to his surprise, Takahashi's profile matches with someone on the app. Bewildered, he wonders what the hell he's doing. He quickly decides there's no way anyone will actually be interested in him and resolves to unsubscribe from the app. But the thought creeps in, being alone is lonely. He admits to himself that he's never had a girlfriend before. It's not that he never had a chance, but working overtime every day has always gotten in the way. Between paying off student loans and sending money to his parents, he has little time or money left for himself. Comparing himself to others, Takahashi feels a pang of sadness. Deep down, he wishes for a girlfriend, a cute girl who would care for him. He laments his life as a corporate slave and, in a moment of despair, thinks that life is such a piece of garbage. Annoyed and overwhelmed, Takahashi dramatically tells himself he wants to die, but he immediately backtracks, laughing nervously at his own outburst and reassuring himself he doesn't actually mean it. With a sigh, he decides it's time to get back to work. As he checks the app one last time, Takahashi accidentally sends a message to a girl named Nanase. Panicking, he realizes he meant to complain on social media but has instead sent his frustrations to a stranger. Before he can delete the message, he receives a response. Nanase wants to meet him. Takahashi stares at his screen in disbelief. The next scene shows him waiting nervously to meet Nanase. He hadn't slept much the night before between work and his nerves. Glancing at her profile again, he notes that her picture is cute but becomes suspicious when he sees she's listed as an investor. He thinks there's nothing more suspicious than that. A voice from behind interrupts his thoughts, asking if he is Takahashi. He quickly confirms, turning to find Nanase standing before him. She greets him warmly, apologizing for keeping him waiting. Takahashi is stunned. He thinks she's incredibly cute, possibly the most beautiful woman he's ever seen. The scene shifts, and they are sitting together in a hotel cafe. Takahashi feels as if he's meeting a beauty queen destined to become a TV announcer. He marvels at her appearance and notes that her avatar wasn't fake at all. As they talk, Nanase suddenly takes hold of his hand and asks what happened the previous night. Embarrassed, Takahashi apologizes and explains that he hadn't meant to send her that message. He admits that work has been tough lately and he wasn't thinking straight. He assures her that he doesn't actually want to die and apologizes again for wasting her time. Expecting her to be mad, Takahashi is surprised when Nanase lets out a sigh of relief and says that she's glad it wasn't serious. Nanase lightens the mood by picking up her fork and telling him she suddenly feels hungry now that her mind is at ease. Offering him a bite of her cake, she tells him not to push himself too hard at work. When she smiles at him, Takahashi feels himself blush. She thanks him for coming to meet her and says she had a lot of fun. As she says goodbye, she suggests meeting again sometime. Takahashi waves her off, agreeing, though he doubts it'll actually happen. Back at the office, Takahashi stands by the vending machine, replaying the day in his mind. He thinks Nanase is sweet and cute, but quickly convinces himself that her invitation to meet again was just polite. Still, he smiles, realizing he enjoyed talking to someone outside of work for once. Just then, his phone buzzes. Expecting a text from his boss, Takahashi's eyes widen when he sees it's from Nanase. She tells him she had a great time and asks if he'd like to meet again over the weekend. The scenes fast forward as Takahashi reflects on how, contrary to his expectations, they kept in touch. They met and called each other countless times, and their schedules always seemed to align. Though he's confused about how their relationship hasn't ended, he's too happy to overanalyze it. For a brief moment, Takahashi even wonders if Nanase might be interested in him, but quickly dismisses the thought as impossible. Reading a recent text from her about trying the coffee he recommended, Takahashi smiles to himself and saves the picture she sent. At home, buried in paperwork, he realizes there's no way he'll finish in time for their next date. Texting her to apologize, he resigns himself to canceling. As he works late into the night, Takahashi dozes off, only to wake up at midnight. Checking his phone, he finds a reply from Nanase, who reassures him not to worry and asks if she should bring him something to eat. And just like that, Takahashi's ordinary life begins to shift in ways he never expected. The doorbell rang, startling Takahashi. He froze, his thoughts racing wildly. He wondered if Nanase-san had arrived already, panic flashing across his mind. He tried to calm himself, but immediately questioned why she would even know where he lived. He thought sarcastically that a solicitor was more likely at his door, but his anxiety flared up again. He worried that Nanase might see the terrible state of his rundown apartment and judge him for it. Snapping out of his thoughts, he called out loudly, saying he was coming, and rushed to open the door. As soon as he did, Nanase was standing there, greeting him cheerfully and wishing him a good evening. Takahashi was completely flustered. He blurted out, asking Nanase what she was doing there. She explained with a warm smile that she lived in the apartment across the street and had happened to see him returning home one day. His mind reeled as he tried to process the fact that Nanase lived nearby. Before he could say anything, she interrupted his thoughts, scolding him with concern. She demanded to know why he had such dark circles under his eyes. Takahashi stammered nervously, explaining that he hadn't been getting much sleep lately because of work. Her expression softened, but her worry deepened. She asked if he had eaten and then reconsidered, suggesting that maybe he just needed rest. She mentioned that she had brought some food for him in case he was hungry. Takahashi felt overwhelmed by her kindness, but quickly told her he was fine. He added nervously that his room was really messy at the moment, and he didn't want her to come in. Nanase brushed off his protest, firmly insisting that it didn't matter. She said he needed to take better care of himself and admitted she didn't really know what his job entailed. However, she said she couldn't help but worry he might work himself to death at this rate. Takahashi stared at her, stunned by her genuine concern. A flicker of hope crossed his mind as he wondered if she might actually be fond of him. But he quickly shook the thought away, chastising himself not to get his hopes up. He forced a smile, laughing nervously, and reassured her that he was fine. She pressed him again, asking if he was really sure. He nodded and insisted that he was feeling great, even joking that he felt good enough to have a drink. Nanase smiled at his response and then suggested that he take a break by coming over to her place. She assured him that she wouldn't force him if he didn't want to. Takahashi hesitated but eventually agreed, saying that he would go with her. The scene shifted as they arrived at a large building. Takahashi followed Nanase into the elevator, watching as she pressed the button for the 9th floor. His thoughts spiraled once more, wondering if this was the moment he would finally become a fully fledged adult. When they reached her apartment, his heart pounded in his chest. Nanase opened the door and welcomed him in, and he thanked her politely. As soon as he stepped inside, Takahashi was struck speechless. The room was a chaotic mess, with clutter piled up everywhere. He stared in disbelief while Nanase apologized casually, saying the room was a little messy. She gestured to a spot where he could sit and told him she was going to get changed. Feeling increasingly awkward, Takahashi's eyes wandered. His curiosity got the better of him, and he peeked behind a curtain. What he saw sent a chill down his spine. The entire wall was covered with photos of him, taken from various angles and situations. His breath quickened as he panicked internally, wondering if these were all pictures of him. Just then, Nanase's voice broke the silence, asking what was wrong. Takahashi turned quickly, only to see her casually moving a pillow aside, one that had his face printed on it. She told him to sit down wherever he liked. His voice cracked as he asked her what was up with all the photos. She closed the curtain calmly and told him not to worry about them. Then, with an innocent tone, she asked what he thought about the apartment, adding that she had bought it for him. Takahashi was utterly dumbfounded as she explained further. She said she had been planning for them to live together eventually, and that things had just progressed faster than she'd expected. She told him this was a good thing. Seeing his stunned expression, Nanase reassured him not to worry about the rent, saying she would cover it. She added with a bright smile that one bed would be enough for the two of them since they would be sleeping together. Takahashi's alarm grew, and he realized he needed to leave immediately. He tried to make a polite excuse, saying he couldn't impose on her any longer. But as he turned to go, he slipped and fell to the ground. Nanase, now sitting on the bed, asked calmly if he was trying to leave. Her voice turned serious as she said she had worked hard to get him to come over, so he couldn't just leave now. She looked directly at him, commenting that he was always so on guard and likely wouldn't have come over even if she had invited him before. Then, with a soft yet intense tone, she cupped his face in her hands and said there was nothing better than having him there in person. Her voice softened further as she confessed that she was willing to do anything for him. She told him that even if all he did was eat and play games all day, as long as he stayed with her, she wouldn't complain. Then she offered to take care of his boss, the one who was always giving him a hard time. Takahashi, completely overwhelmed, managed to ask why she would go so far for him. Nanase's eyes softened as she revealed the truth. She had been in love with him all this time. She explained that if someone else could make him happy, she would have let them. But since that wasn't happening, she decided she would be the one to make him happy. Her voice became desperate as she pleaded with him to live there with her. She warned that she might lose control and trap him there if he didn't agree. She painted a picture of their love nest, a place where no one could interfere with their happiness. Takahashi's thoughts spiraled. He acknowledged that no matter how cute she was, there were certain lines that simply couldn't be crossed. Nanase stepped closer, her tone growing more emotional. She told him she loved him and begged him to go out with her. And so, Takahashi realized with a mix of dread and disbelief that this was how his relationship with Nanase began. The scene begins with Chiaki Takahashi sitting in a small, dimly lit room as Nanase approaches him. Takahashi feels his nerves tightening. His mind reels with reminders. His name is Chiaki Takahashi. He's a 25-year-old man, and the girl standing before him, the one he met on a dating app, is clearly eccentric. As Nanase steps closer, he instinctively raises a hand to stop her and firmly declares that this isn't happening. Nanase pauses, her expression puzzled, and asks why not. Takahashi glances around the room, his unease growing. His thoughts race. What is going on here? The atmosphere feels stifling, and the sheer absurdity of her plan to ruin his boss's life leaves him reeling. He can only conclude that this girl is completely unhinged. Nanase leans in, her voice soft but persistent, and tells him she just wants to take care of him. Takahashi's anxiety spikes as he internally admits that, while she is undeniably cute, their dynamics simply won't work. Without warning, he jumps to his feet, blurting out that he has to wake up early for work. He hastily thanks her before darting out of the flat, leaving Nanase standing there stunned. As Takahashi sprints away, Nanase mutters to herself that he has escaped. Pulling out a pair of binoculars from seemingly nowhere, she watches him run down the street, a faint smile on her lips as she notes how adorable he looks when he's in a panic. The story shifts to the next day. Takahashi sits at his office desk, his body slumped and his mind clouded with exhaustion. He reflects bitterly on how his lack of focus has already earned him a scolding from his boss. Life feels miserable, he thinks to himself. Even though the overtime wasn't heavy yesterday, the emotional toll of his encounter with Nanase has drained him. His thoughts inevitably drift back to her, and he wonders how things went so wrong with someone he initially thought was normal. Later in the office elevator, a couple of colleagues notice his downcast expression. One asks casually if he wants to grab a bite to eat after work, but Takahashi shakes his head. Another colleague presses him, teasing that he looks far too depressed for someone with such an easy workload. They encourage him to share what's bothering him. Reluctantly, Takahashi reveals that someone has invited him to live with her, but her affections feel overwhelming. He hesitates before adding that she doesn't expect him to pay rent and that she has a suspiciously large collection of photos of him. His colleagues are shocked, but not in the way Takahashi expects. One exclaims that it doesn't sound like a problem at all. Another casually remarks that having lots of photos of someone you like is totally normal. Takahashi feels his grip on reality slipping. Is this actually normal? One colleague jokes that Takahashi must have hit the jackpot, wondering aloud if the girl is rich. "You're marrying into money," he quips. Takahashi feels more confused than ever. Is he the one who's out of touch here? That evening, Takahashi returns to his apartment, only to find his landlord waiting for him. She greets him warmly, but he slips and addresses her as aunt, prompting her to scold him and demand that he call her landlord instead. Without wasting a moment, she asks when he plans to move out. Takahashi is caught off guard and asks what she means. The landlord explains that the building is old and scheduled for demolition. She questions if he even bothered to read the notice she sent weeks ago. Realizing with a sinking feeling that the letter has been sitting unopened on his cluttered table, Takahashi mentally curses himself. The landlord sets a firm deadline, 2 weeks to vacate. Takahashi feels panic rising. Where can he possibly go in such a short amount of time? Days blur together as Takahashi juggles his demanding job and the stressful hunt for a new place to live. He grumbles about the high rents near his workplace and the longer commutes of more affordable options. Time slips away, and before he knows it, eviction day arrives. Sitting at his now bare table, Takahashi resigns himself to a harsh new reality. He'll become a net cafe refugee. At the cafe, Takahashi finds himself lying on the floor of a cramped booth, exhausted but unable to sleep. He fumes internally about his stolen wallet, cursing the thief who took it. His frustration only grows as he hears the noisy chatter of a couple in the next booth. He silently curses them, wishing they'd take their business to a love hotel instead. One rainy night, Takahashi finds himself sitting on a park bench, drenched and utterly defeated. He stares at the rain pouring around him, consumed by despair. He has no money, no place to stay, and no friends he can call on for help. How did his life come to this? Out of nowhere, a familiar voice calls out to him. Takahashi looks up and sees Nanase standing before him, holding an umbrella. She expresses surprise at finding him in such a state and points out that his old apartment was being demolished. She asks if he's all right, concern evident in her voice. Before he can respond, Nanase grabs his hand and insists he'll catch a cold if he stays out here. She urges him to come to her place if he has nowhere else to go. Back at Nanase's apartment, Takahashi notices the cluttered state of the room but says nothing. She hands him a steaming cup of coffee, and he thanks her quietly, appreciating the warmth it brings. When she offers him the sofa for the night, he hesitates. Takahashi wrestles with his pride, thinking that he shouldn't impose on her after rejecting her before. But Nanase looks hurt and asks softly why he refuses to rely on her. She wonders aloud if he sees her as untrustworthy. Her voice trembles as she admits she likes him. She confesses that, while she has feelings for him, it hurts even more to see him struggling and unwilling to accept her help. Guilt washes over Takahashi. Deep down, he knows he had hoped for her help all along. Unable to meet her gaze, he drops to his knees and apologizes. He asks if he can stay the night, surrendering to his situation. Nanase blushes but agrees shyly. Takahashi, however, berates himself internally. He feels like trash for going back on his earlier resolve. Still, as he listens to the rain hammering outside, he can't deny the relief of being warm and safe, even if it's under these circumstances. Morning breaks, and Takahashi stirs on the sofa in Nanase's flat, groaning as he shifts to sit up. His body feels stiff, every muscle sore from the uncomfortable night. Nanase enters the room, holding up her phone, and snaps a picture of him with a cheerful greeting, saying good morning. Takahashi stretches and groans again, complaining that he feels sore all over. Nanase chuckles, teasingly pointing out that this is exactly what he gets for sleeping on the sofa. She tells him he should have just used the bed. Takahashi shakes his head, insisting he couldn't impose on her like that. Letting him stay over in the first place was already more than enough. Nanase waves it off, saying she doesn't mind at all, then changes the topic, gesturing toward the table. She excitedly tells him that she has prepared a hearty breakfast to energize him for his busy day at work. Takahashi stares at the spread, taken aback, before hesitatingly admitting that he usually doesn't eat breakfast. Nanase blinks in surprise, her smile faltering for a moment. Takahashi quickly stands and announces that he needs to get to work. As he moves toward the door, Nanase calls after him, insisting she at least help him with his necktie. She steps up and adjusts the tie with perhaps too much enthusiasm, tightening it to the point where Takahashi gasps for air. He stammers out that she's choking him. Flustered, Nanase loosens the tie immediately, apologizing as Takahashi coughs and straightens his collar. He glances at her as he leaves, muttering a quick "see you later." Nanase calls after him, her voice softer now, wishing him a nice day at work. Her words linger in his mind as he walks down the street. When was the last time someone said that to him? He wonders. It might have been back when he was still living with his parents. At the office, Takahashi can't help but reflect on the morning. His worries about staying at Nanase's place seem misplaced now. Maybe he thinks she isn't so bad after all. She even goes out of her way to be kind to him, though he usually turns her down. But as the thought crosses his mind, he shakes his head, reminding himself not to let his guard down. Her kindness could be deceiving, he tells himself. He forces his thoughts back to work, resolving to find a new place to stay soon. His boss interrupts his thoughts, commenting that Takahashi seems livelier than usual. Takahashi nods politely and greets him with a good morning. As expected, the boss hands him a tedious task and throws in a backhanded compliment about his punctuality. Internally, Takahashi seethes, thinking he doesn't have time for this nonsense right now. During a break, Takahashi scrolls through his phone and finds a listing for a shared apartment. It's perfect, cheap, and close to work. His excitement grows as he wonders why he didn't consider living with roommates sooner. Still, the idea of sharing a space with strangers makes him uneasy. But he tells himself he can't impose on Nanase any longer and decides to apply. Later, he receives an email confirming his application. The interview is set, and he feels a mix of anticipation and relief. Back at the flat, Nanase brings him a cup of coffee. Takahashi stiffens, his mind racing as he wonders if she saw his phone. Out loud, he thanks her and mentions casually that he has something to take care of today. He quickly adds that he's going to watch a movie with a colleague, hoping to avoid any awkward questions. Nanase's eyes light up with excitement, and she eagerly tells him to invite her next time. Takahashi hesitates, then reluctantly agrees before leaving the flat. At the restaurant for the interview, Takahashi meets two potential roommates. They greet him warmly, though they seem a bit embarrassed as they apologize for not having cleaned the apartment before his visit. They assure him that the common areas are always tidy. One of them mentions that everyone currently living there is female and asks if he's comfortable being the only male. Takahashi considers the situation. The apartment is nice, affordable, and close to work. Despite the awkwardness, he assures them it won't be an issue. Just as the conversation is wrapping up, a familiar voice calls his name, and his heart sinks. Turning slowly, he sees Nanase standing there, smiling brightly. Panic floods through him. How did she find him? Does she attach a GPS to him? She steps closer, her tone light and curious, asking if the two women are his colleagues. Takahashi quickly tries to clarify, his voice rushed as he insists there's no misunderstanding. Nanase's smile grows as she pieces it together, casually pointing out that he must be looking for a new apartment. She apologizes for interrupting and, to his horror, starts offering her connections to help the women find tenants. Her suggestions even include entrepreneurs who, according to her, are single and looking to save money. The potential roommates exchange looks, clearly overwhelmed, and excuse themselves, thanking her before leaving. Back at the flat, Nanase suggests they watch a movie together. Takahashi, now thoroughly frustrated, mutters that his perfect plan is ruined. His voice rises as he demands to know why she did that, pointing out that opportunities like this don't come every day. Nanase, unfazed by his outburst, shrugs and says he can just live with her instead. She steps closer, her tone soft but firm as she asks why he would want to move somewhere else. Takahashi hesitates, then admits he doesn't understand why she's so attached to him. He points out her pictures and other actions, saying her sense of boundaries is all over the place. Nanase meets his words calmly, reminding him that she already told him she loves him and wants to make him happy. Her voice softens as she admits she may have been too pushy, but insists her feelings are genuine. Feeling guilty, Takahashi apologizes. He acknowledges all the ways she's helped him, from offering him a place to stay to listening to his problems. Nanase listens quietly before asking if anyone has ever loved him as much as she does. Her voice turns serious as she asks if he thinks he'll ever meet someone who cares for him as much as she does. She tells him to give up and let her make him happy. For a moment, Takahashi wavers. Her words strike a chord, and he thinks she might be right. No one else has cared for him like this, and maybe no one ever will. Nanase, sensing his hesitation, steps closer. Her tone shifts, playful yet unsettling, as she points out that he lied about going to the movies with coworkers. She pulls out a dog collar, her smile unwavering, and declares that such a lie deserves an appropriate punishment. She holds it out, telling him to put it on. Takahashi freezes, his mind racing. How did he end up in this nightmare?
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand,